Wherever you are and however you're listening, thanks for being back with us on another episode of Winning the Moment. Today, I've got the co-founder of Blueform Media, the company that helps me make this podcast possible, Blake Norton, and you also get to hear from Mal, also with a couple incredible statistics about what it takes to be in the top 1% of podcasters. So if you're thinking about doing a podcast or have ever wondered what it looks like, we pull back the curtain and give you all this incredible information. You're absolutely going to love it. Stay tuned, like and subscribe, and most importantly, enjoy the episode. Welcome back to another episode of Winning the Moment. Today we're going to kind of pull the curtain back because I've got Blake Norton with me, and he is the co-founder with his wife Mallory of Blueform Media, the team that puts our podcast on. And so we're going to get into the nitty-gritty today. But Blake, thanks for being here.
Dude, thank you. This is kind of surreal being... I've sat in this mic and this chair a lot, but this is being in Cody's hot seat is different.
Yeah, well, you usually sit on that side for your podcast, don't you?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, we change a lot of background stuff in here, and we do a lot in this room. But yeah, I tell people all the time, I'm like the best podcaster in St. George is Cody Aiden.
Oh, and I did not pay him for that. Well, I kind of did.
Well, you pay me,
not directly for that.
Yeah, but a lot of people pay me. A lot of people pay us, but they don't get that.
So we were just talking before we got rolling about just the power of podcasts and about gaming and just media. And so last night, my wife and son are in Legoland, so they're gone.
Oh, sick.
And I've got Utah Tech tickets last night, and so I have four seats to the Utah Tech basketball game. So I asked my dad and my friend Zach to go, and so my daughter's coming along, and she likes to go, and like Megan and Cash were with us, but she was not feeling it, Yeah. And her mom and brother are gone, so she's sad. She's never been away from her brother for more than one night ever in her life, so she's struggling, So I'm like, I'll bring my phone, my AirPods, like you can just tune out. And so she's watching YouTube, right? And I look over and I'm like, oh, holy shit, that's Dusty. And I'm like, Liv, she was just on my podcast. She's like, you know her? Yeah. I was like, yeah, look. And I show her like it was like, what, a couple episodes before this one. Because this is episode 43. Dusty was like 41, I think, or 40. Yeah. And so she's like, oh, I love her daughter. Like, will you message her and tell her I want to be her friend? And this is when her daughter was like, probably my daughter's age now, but her daughter's 15. But it was just so surreal because it's not like I'm not connected in that way. It's like it's my kids' YouTube kids. Yeah. And here she is watching the content of someone.
What kind of content does Dusty do again?
Well, her daughter was doing like a makeup thing.
Okay.
And my daughter loves makeup.
That's
and
right.
so
I remember her. Yeah.
It was just so surreal because it's like of all the YouTubes in the world. And I just happened to look over, right?
She's like,
I like tapped her on the leg to tell her like the cheerleaders were doing something. And I looked down, I'm like, oh shit, it's Dusty. Like what a small world. Talk about the power of video,
Oh man, dude. Yeah, that's when you head nod to Sean Cannell, the power of video.
Yeah.
Shout out Sean Cannell, right?
Yeah, well, you have to shout out Sean Cannell. Speaking of which, Growth Video tickets are out for sale.
Yeah, I know. We're trying to save our pennies.
Yeah, Spencer and I just booked our tickets. So if you're listening to this and you want to learn how to Growth Video, go see it. It's in Vegas. It's awesome. They missed it last year, but I think this is like their 5th or 6th year. And I wouldn't be sitting here doing this podcast if it wasn't for that.
It's so true though, because like the concept is you just hit record on something. You just fucking start.
Yeah, it's the key.
That's it. And like we always preach, you can start with us and get out the gate like really good looking with excellent quality, and we do all of it for you. But it does help. The clients that do best are people that can just start. They've already started, or they've already absorbed some information or committed to some knowledge about the task of podcasting, and then we can come in and fill the gaps. That's the best for us.
Well, yeah, I mean, Virtual GM, we started on our cell phone in our house, exactly. And if we hadn't done that, we probably wouldn't have even realized it was worth the investment to do this with you guys. But that got us started, and it's hilarious to go back and watch them now because they're grainy and the sound shitty, and like, but it was better than nothing, and those still get, and even like to that video my daughter was watching of Dusty, I bet you that video had to have been 8 years old.
Oh, okay.
Right? But it's evergreen content that lives on forever, and it still gets in front of my daughter. She's watching the whole thing, so Dusty got paid.
Yeah.
For that video,
that's still crazy. And that's what Sean Cannell and other YouTubers will talk about, is that the real value in starting something, your returns they're not going to be instant.
No.
But they will be forever.
Yeah.
Right. So they're not instant returns, but they are forever. And if that content is still relevant 8 years later, like that video you're mentioning,
yeah,
like that's still a paycheck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like land, you know, like you can buy raw land and maybe today it's not worth anything more than you paid for it. But 10 years down the road, it could be worth a shitload.
Yes.
You know, you just gotta have it. And so it was just surreal to see that come up, and it just really illustrates like why this is a valuable medium.
Yeah.
You know, you just never know what it's going to turn into.
Well, can we kind of highlight your like gains from your podcast?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
plural.
the best one as far as like a gain goes is really virtual GM because it's tied to a business.
Yes.
Right. So like this for me is really about exposure and opportunity, and people love it. Like I was just in Vegas a couple weeks ago doing a corporate training, and when you say that you have a podcast, that's just like a sense of credibility, even though there is none real because anyone can have one. Yeah. But still, when you have it, they're like, oh, like this is really what you do. Yeah. And now that, you know, this is episode 43, so then they look it up and it's like there's consistent content and it's every week. And so that just gives you some validity. But for virtual GM, because we're over like 50, 60 episodes with that. And all of our new clients to Vibrant, all of them are in some way attached to virtual GM.
Right.
Like every single time, you know, like that's I just had a call with a guy in Canada who had just listened to the podcast. Like he had a property that's similar to the ones that we manage, and he was just the general manager of it, and he was implementing the things we were doing. And he was like, I just got to reach out to these guys. Yeah. And then so now maybe we'll end up working with them, you know, and when you do, it's so much easier to start working with them because they're already like a believer in our process.
Yeah.
And oftentimes they're implementing it.
Yeah. So I think they've done some studies on the human subconscious, like when it comes to like friendships and other things. And if you're consuming someone else's content and you hit a certain threshold, I think over like 100 hours you start, but it's guaranteed at like 300 hours that you spend with somebody, you are like a lifelong best friends forever.
Oh yeah, like I feel like the people on Vanderpump Rules are my friends.
Exactly.
You know, like I told I had not found a good show on as long as I can remember, and my wife was like, "Oh, watch this one on Netflix," and I can't remember the name of it. The brothers, and it was about like this Chinese mafia. Yeah. If you haven't watched it yet, go watch it. It's amazing. And it was like 8 episodes, and I like totally did the binge thing. And after I told her, I was like, I miss my friends, you know, and that was only 8 hours, you know, but I've been watching Vanderpump Rules for 10 years. So it's like you watch people in their lives and you do feel like you know them.
And that's why the podcast and the returns, they come later.
Yeah.
Like they're forever.
Well, unless you do have a business, because like
they come.
Virtual GM came right away, you know, and then just the exposure it's given us, and like what we did at ByTac when we went and traveled there and put the podcast on, and the credibility it gives us in the space, like it allows people to have the perception that I'm like a thought leader in hospitality. Yeah. Even though my thoughts aren't necessarily different or unique from anyone else, we're just consistently putting it out there. Yeah. And they're in a consumable fashion, right? And so now I go to those events and it's like, oh yeah, I know your podcast, you know?
And you're more likely to do business with somebody you know or know of, right? Right. And when you're cold calling somebody on the phone, like you have to be so good at rapport to make that person feel like you're more than an acquaintance, right? It takes a couple touches. And so imagine this, if you have a business like Cody does, you have a product or service that you can sell, and then you go to a convention floor with a podcast, you already have even just one episode done, right? And then somebody has seen that episode, or you send it out maybe like, hey, I have some free value. You know, you can weasel your way in. Sure. I have some free value for the convention. Would you guys mind promoting my podcast episode for free and just maybe put it in the email? Yeah. Or can I pay you? Right. Can I advertise my podcast for the convention? Then you go to that convention floor, and if 5 people have seen that 1 hour of content, you're more than just an acquaintance now. Right? They're like, great story. They're like, hey, you're Cody. You guys are the VGM guys, right? Yeah. I saw that happen to you guys at ByTac like 6 times.
Oh, yeah. No, it's a real thing. I got to tell a funny story, though, because we went to the hospitality show in Las Vegas. Yeah. And like Spencer and I are like, I wonder if people are going to recognize us, you know? And so Kyle went up to these group of dudes who he could tell were fun. And he was like, hey, do you see those 2 guys right there? When they walk past, will you guys be like, oh shit, it's the virtual GM guys? And so Kyle's like standing in the distance filming, right? And so Spencer and I walk by and they're like, oh my, Spencer and Cody were like, yeah, like virtual GM. We're like, oh my God. And we're so excited. And then Kyle and Breck just start like dying laughing because they set us up so hard. Dude. Like we hook, line, and sinker. They got us. But it is a real thing. I mean, it totally works. And even for myself with this podcast, Winning the Moment, I believe in the long-term evolution of what it will become, but also it's enjoyable. Like all the people I've got to talk to and people I would have never had conversations with otherwise necessarily. And like someone, in fact, I got a text message.
Real quick, shout out Kyle. Kyle's the best.
Yeah, Kyle is the
I
best.
Miss Kyle.
He's calculated. That's a good joke.
Oh, dude, it was the joke. The joke quality was extreme. Okay, so let me find this. I got this. Because you never know if it's worth it. Like oftentimes it's kind of like, what's the point, Mm-hmm. So I get this text the other day, I think it was Wednesday. It says, "Hey Cody, it's been a minute, but I met you when you spoke at Utah Tech in Chris's class. I just wanted to say you inspired me so much. I also get so much inspiration from your socials, so thank you. I decided to get my real estate license and I'm doing that now. I also have my own swim business." And it's like, wow, how cool is that? And all my socials are just clips of this.
Yeah.
Because it's so hard to like create content otherwise. But doing the podcast, I just have an unlimited amount of content from it. And so to get a message like that, it's like, someone's listening.
Yeah. Because it's really hard. It's really hard to see the impact you're giving.
Yeah.
Other than some metrics like likes and shares and all the stuff that socials give you. But it's really hard to what is the impact that your podcast is having? You don't really fully
know. I mean, Megan went to a party last weekend and someone was there and she was like, "Oh my God, my mom loves your husband's podcast." I don't even know this lady.
Yeah.
She's like, she listens to it every week. Like it's her favorite podcast. And it's like, when you hear stuff like that, it feels good because you just don't know. You see a download or like a listen, but you don't know who those people are or if it's making a difference. Like you don't know,
Dude, that's a really good point because we tend to get caught up in the analytics because that's our job.
Yeah.
And we present those, but there's a person at the end of those. There's a life.
Yeah.
A human.
And you never know either because like every episode is a different person. And so that person has their own community, right? And so if they've not been on a podcast before, then everyone's excited to tune in, see what it's like, their moms, their dads, their brothers, their all of that, right? Friends. And so you see those changes based on the guest and what their circle of influence is. And so you never know is someone showing up because they're a fan of the podcast or are they showing up because they're a fan of Blake? And you can't, there's no way to tell.
Yeah. And they might stick around. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the beauty of having different guests is that exposes you to a new network of people. And then if they like the content, then you've got a chance to get them back.
Yeah. I guess that's why it's called social media, right? Because it's so social. There's such a tribal socialism around it when you can latch on because of that subconscious factor, right? Because I'm watching Cody's content, I feel like a friendship with him. And you can see it too. Like I saw this comedian talking about all the like alpha bros.
Yeah.
They're like, anybody who's ever seen a kettlebell is like an alpha bro all of a sudden. And he's like, but you don't understand like how many alphas there are? He's like, there can be only one. The true alpha, it's Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan's your alpha. He tells you what to think. And you're like, hey, I was thinking, bro. Oh, were you really? Or did Joe tell you something?
Yeah, no, that's amazing how media shifts your beliefs and thoughts, depending on what you consume.
Yeah, I mean, I regurgitate shit I hear all the time. And I was like, what about this? And I act like it's my own idea, but I'm like, really, I got that from
and even you probably feel like it is. You just everything we're getting from somewhere because everything exists, right? That's like the very first page of my book is I don't know anything, and everything in this book is just other content I've consumed, and I'm just regurgitating it in a way that makes sense to me. Yeah. But it all came from somewhere.
Exactly. I don't think there is maybe a little bit of actual original thought in the world or in a person.
Yeah,
myself, maybe there's a little bit in there, but I think there's original perspective more.
Yeah,
is original thought.
Yeah, right. That's really what the book is. It's my perspective on the things I've consumed and how I see it. Mm-hmm. But it all comes from somewhere, and it's hard to even know because I always think about like because I look at people in certain areas where they live, right, and they're so different, and they think differently and they act differently, and so then you wonder if I lived there, you'd have to imagine I would then think and act like they do.
100%.
Because it's like, yes, I am me. But we are a reflection of our surroundings. So if you put me somewhere else, how different would I be? And you'll never know the answer to that question.
It's 100%. Like culture is like everything.
Yeah.
It takes, how they say it takes a village to raise a kid, right?
Yeah.
It literally It does. Like,
and then even generationally.
Yeah.
Not even just location, but the time that you grew up, right? Because like my kid would love to be a YouTuber. That wasn't even a thing for me. YouTube came out. Do you know when it came out?
It was like 08,
It came out on February 13th of 2005.
Because I don't remember hearing it until about 08.
Yeah, and then I thought about it because I was talking to someone. It was Dusty. I was talking to Dusty on the podcast about, I never watched YouTube when I was in high school. It's because it didn't fucking exist.
Yeah.
I just didn't realize that because it's been around for so long now. You feel like it's always been there, but it was only 2005. That's not even 20 years.
Yeah.
That's wild.
That's so crazy, dude.
You know, and when did podcasts even really start? I mean, I know like Lewis Howes has been on it for 10 years. Joe Rogan's probably about 10 years. But like, how did you even consume that content in the beginning?
It was even earlier for Joe Rogan. It was...
Mal, will you look that up?
Yeah, when did Joe Rogan start? He's kind of the father of podcasting, I guess. But there were a lot of pre-Joe Rogan people that paved the way. But I think he's there's some people too that have been doing it just as long as him, but haven't blown up like Joe Rogan. But we'll see what Mal says. That's fascinating to think about, dude, because it just kind of happened.
2003.
Not by Joe Rogan, though.
Yeah.
Some other guy.
Oh, well, when did Joe start? I'm curious.
Let me look it up.
But even think about that. 2003 is before YouTube.
Yeah. And podcast actually comes from the iPod. Remember iPods?
Oh.
Yeah. A podcast was...
Well, isn't that...
audio we can put
So if it wasn't for Apple...
Yeah. I think...
we wouldn't be sitting here.
I'm pretty sure that's where it derives from, because it was the Apple iPod, and you could do a podcast.
And put it on it.
Yeah, and then podcasts kind of became synonymous for just talking into a microphone.
So Joe Rogan's first podcast was 2009.
Yeah, 2000.
Okay, so he's 15 years in.
Yeah.
15 years? That dude's a machine. Yeah. That takes a lot of commitment.
It does, man. I mean, can we talk about the energy that you put into your show?
Of course.
Because we see this as the production side, and we've seen a lot of people start and then trickle out.
Yeah, what are those statistics? It's like if you've done more than 20 episodes, you're in the top 1% of podcasters or something like that?
If you've done more than 3 episodes, you're in the top tier. But I think there's another one at 20.
Yeah.
Like you're in the top 1% or whatever. But
that's crazy.
Yeah. So what we see is a lot of people start because from our perspective, obviously we're a for-profit company that help people do podcasting. Yeah. We're a media company, so we do everything for you. Or like in Cody's case, like there's some things that you still manage on your end. So you can a la carte it, but you have to come to the table. It's weird because it's not like a service. Like Netflix, what kind of energy do you expend to like make that business partnership?
Yeah.
Like you're a customer of Netflix, right? You just watch it. So there's not much energy needed. Or like like my past company, I sold Windows for JKR Windows, right? Uh-huh. There was very little energy on their part. There was money, which is a form of energy.
Yeah.
So you buy the product or the service, and then you just sit back and watch it get installed.
Yeah, and then that's the end.
And that's the end of the transaction. But it's so weird being in a service-based industry, like some other people, like search engine optimization.
Well, even for us at Vibrant, it's the same way. Like I got to resell. You're reselling yourself always.
Yeah, always.
Right? Like, because at any point,
yes,
your client could be like, oh, I'm not doing it anymore.
Right. But do they have to come to the table with some energy and intention, or do you just kind of do it for them?
Well, I think that if you do, your success is much higher.
Agreed.
Right? Like if you're just going to be a non-interested third party, then
yes,
because it's not our business, it's their business.
Right.
You know, it's like we will support and facilitate that in the best capacity possible. But if you don't care about it, and if you don't show up to meetings, or if you're not responsive, then there's certain decisions we can't make on your behalf. So we're just waiting.
If a client was just like the bare minimum effort, you would still be able to work your job for them, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Just not as effectively.
Yeah, same. So same with us, but we're actually very reliant on a client's energy and commitment level.
Yeah.
Because you can pay us all day, but if you don't speak into the microphone, if you don't come
you're not going to get any results.
Yeah, if you don't have energy to do your own podcast, like we cannot help you facilitate that. If it falls out of alignment with your financial situation or with your, philosophical situation, or if you start with, 2 decision makers, or it's like a joint endeavor, like some clients do, and if they get out of alignment, even though their relationship is great, they're still good, but if they just align to different things, like we're reliant upon their commitment level. It's kind of weird. It's not like a product.
Yeah, because it doesn't matter how good you guys do. If their commitment wavers, then there's nothing you can do.
So it's kind of it's a service-based business, but it's kind of a hard service-based business because, you know, if I'm doing a monthly service, like if I come and mow your lawn, like I don't need your participation to do my job. I need to resell myself and get value and do all these principles. But it's not like I need you to hold the lawnmower with me. I'm like, okay,
you just need us to water the yard.
yeah. Can you pole start it for me? You know, like, but we literally need someone pole starting the podcast every day.
Yeah,
you know, every time we get in.
And I think that's a great message for listeners. If you're listening and you're like, oh, I'd like to do a podcast, it's so much more of a commitment than what it appears to be.
Yes.
Because you watch a podcast like, oh, that would be fun. Like Joe Rogan's just talking to Dr. Phil. Like that would be fun to do. And it's like, yeah, in theory. But then you have to know what you're going to talk about. Yeah. And you've got to make the time. Because like for me, it takes about 20-ish to 25 minutes to get here. Right?
Yeah.
So let's just call it 30. So it's 30 minutes in, 30 minutes out. So there's an hour of my day. But I like to get here about 15 minutes early.
Right.
So that way I'm here before the guest gets here, prepare. And then let's say you've got 50 minutes on the back end, right? So now you're at an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And then you've got the episode, which is an hour to an hour and a half. So if it's an hour and a half, it's a 3-hour commitment. And that's just to be
show
here.
Up. Yeah.
Then you got to, you know, either have you guys do all of that back end stuff or you have to have the responsibility to do it. But then you've got all your posting throughout the week. You've got your communication and also your scheduling of future guests because you've got to be forward thinking and have your calendar ready because you don't want to just reach out to someone on Thursday and be like, hey, can you be on the podcast? You know?
Yes.
And so, I mean, it's a job.
It's a production.
If you're going to do it, then you got to be committed.
Like they don't.
These are the stats. What Cody just explained, this is why these stats exist, right? So 90% of podcasts don't get past episode 3.
Wow, 90% not past episode 3. That's
and then
fucking bonkers.
Another 90% quit after 20. So by publishing 21 episodes, you are in the top 1% of podcasters.
Oh.
Hey, whoa,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Spencer.
Shout out to Blueform. All of our podcasters have been in the top 1%.
That's
wow.
Awesome.
So anyway,
man, that's wild. That's a crazy. After 3.
Just 3. You're in
that's
the 90%.
Crazy.
That's
God,
so
that's
crazy.
like not even trying.
I mean, that's indicative of what we were talking about, right? It's like it's so much energy and time.
Well, actually, even if I'm being honest, when we started Virtual GM, so it was like, oh, we'll do one every day, whatever we said we're going to do it. And then we did a couple, and then you miss one. It's just like anything in life. Once you like allow yourself that grace. So we missed one, and then we missed the next one, and probably the one after that. And then it was like, shit, dude, are we going to do this or are we not going to do it?
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh, we have to, on the calendar, this is the time. And it's like, for me, I always do them the same time every week because it's just a part of my routine, you know?
Dude, you just actually gave me an idea. It's the analogy that's perfect for it is when you come to Blueform Media, it's like getting a personal trainer.
Yeah, it's like your accountability partner.
It's your accountability.
Right? Because if you've got the studio time, you're not just going to be like, oh, fuck it. I don't want to do it today.
We invoice you at the beginning of the month.
Yeah.
So it's like you're committed.
Yeah.
So if you don't, it's like a good personal trainer will do that too.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
You're going to pay me up front. So if you miss it, it hurts. Mm-hmm. So I'm not allowing you the grace that your subconscious would do.
And when it was just Spencer and I on a cell phone in my house, it didn't really matter.
Yeah.
Right? And so we didn't record at the same time.
Yeah.
We didn't have any consistency. And so, yeah, I think that we probably wouldn't have gone as far as we did had we not committed to the level of professionalism that we do it with, nor would we have seen the success, right? Because like even with ByTac, where we went and did the podcast there, had we just still been doing it on our phone, we wouldn't have had the production value. And also we couldn't have even, I mean, ByTac would never want us there with like a phone on a tripod. No microphones, no nothing,
and
you know?
You can hear like someone snacking on something or...
Well, and that reminds me, so on Real Housewives of Salt Lake, that one couple started a podcast, remember?
Yep.
And so I was watching the episode and they're doing it and I'm like, I'm looking at their setup and it's like a cheap like Amazon speaker and it's like plugged in the USB of their laptop and I think they're using their cell phones or maybe they don't even have video. Sure. And I'm thinking to myself, like, these people are supposedly millionaires, right? And so I'm like, what are they doing? Like you're giving it like almost no effort. So then we listened to it, remember?
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, you got to listen to this. The audio was atrocious. Even if the content was amazing, which it wasn't, but let's just say that it was like a riveting conversation. The content was so poor. No one's listening to that.
No, the human ear, especially. I mean, there's pleasant sounds to the ear, and then there's horrible sounds, like nails on a chalkboard or whatever.
Yeah.
Like you just can't listen to that for an extended amount of time.
Yeah. That's why, like, you know, when you invest in that quality, like when you listen to Joe Rogan's podcast, it sounds great because they've got, Lord knows how much invested into all that quality. Yeah. You know, and you listen to someone who's just starting and it's crappy. It's like you lose interest.
Yeah. And it's less than you think to invest in it. It's less than you think. Now we were talking about our expenses, like as a media company.
Yeah.
And we've spent a lot on infrastructure, home network, or business network basically, and internet costs and software and computers. And so our costs are way higher than an average podcaster.
Sure.
But like to run a studio like this from your house, you could get results like this with like under $5,000.
Yeah.
Under 10 grand if you wanted to go.
But even think about that.
Yeah.
You're already then committing $5,000 into something that you have to know.
Yes.
Will not give you any return. I mean, Alex Ramosi is brilliant and an unbelievable business person and didn't make a single return off his podcast for 4 years.
Exactly.
Or you can just hire a media studio in town.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so like even for us, so we started on our cell phone. Then we're like, dude, we need a camera. Like, this isn't good enough. So we bought a fucking camera, recorded the episode, go to the camera. It shuts off after like 15 minutes, unbeknownst to us, right? So we're like, oh, okay, that's not working. So we got to get a different kind of camera, buy another camera.
Yes.
Same shit. And so it was like the cell phone was better than these cameras, or we're just too dumb to know how to operate them, you know?
Yeah.
And so, because you have a camera, I don't know why yours works and ours didn't, but
yeah, there's menus, layers. There's like 8 different menu layers in these cameras, right? And
well, and then you got the content on the fucking card, and you got to get it into the onto the screen. It's just like so much shit. Just don't want to have to worry about it.
And that's the beauty of having a permanent studio like this. We set up, we maybe adjust the camera angles to fit the person.
Yeah, and
that's it. And the lighting's good, everything's set, so we can really be optimized in our speed and efficiency in getting a high turnaround time. So just to give some listeners some perspective, I guess, more insight about the podcast industry. But it's one thing to have the equipment, and then it's the other thing to know the equipment. Like buying a tractor doesn't make you a farmer. It's knowing how to plant and all that knowledge with it. And so with this microphone, like you have to know what kind of mic this is. What's the pickup pattern of this microphone? Because it's not back here. This is a dynamic mic that has a pickup bubble. So you can hear, I'm going to leave the bubble. Like,
oh yeah, when people leave it on an episode, you can hear it. When someone
they
pulls
lean
back
back
like this, and
and then there's different types of mics, and so a lot of people buy the wrong equipment because they were told it was that way. And so this mic is great for uncontrolled environments because it only picks up here. But if you get a condenser microphone, it'll pick up everything in this room. So if your room isn't perfect, like an actual sound studio, then you'll hear someone thinking in the corner. They're like, oh my God, when is this going to end? You could hear it. Like it'll pick up everything like this stuff.
Yeah.
You can hear this now, but this would like literally attack your ears on a condenser mic.
Be a terrible sound that distract you from the content you're supposed to be listening to.
And then there's just nuances like with these arms, why we chose these arms versus a different one. Like how we're hanging these backgrounds, what kind of software Mal is running right now, how to, everything. You have to master all this equipment, which is the analogy I like to use is like when I'm a big, former military, I still like the firearms industry, but everybody thinks you just need the equipment. And so the most common thing people say is like, oh, I need night vision goggles. I'm like, need is an interesting word. You don't need that, and don't. You running
black ops, or what are you doing? You hunting in the dark?
Where are you gonna go? You're gonna go get killed. If there's a war going on, there are people way better trained with their night vision than you are, right?
Well, and even then, there's someone a mile away. That's
it's gonna get you.
It's like to be able to see.
You're gonna go out there and boogaloo with the boys at night, looking through your tubes, and like you're gonna get killed because there's some guy out there who's got thousands of hours doing that for his job.
Yeah,
and you're just a civilian. It's like you don't do that. because it's just going to be free equipment for someone else after you've passed.
You're an advertisement.
Yeah, and so need is different, and so like I need this equipment, I need that stuff. It requires a lot of skill that goes with it, and so you can start a podcast very simply, and that's why we like Sean Cannell, because he's very real about it. He's like, there's $20 Amazon mics you can plug into your phone and have decent quality. If you're just in a quiet room talking to your friend, like you'll have a great podcast.
Well, and I think that if you're listening, it's better to do that than to do nothing.
Exactly. That's the best part. Yeah. And then, but once it becomes like ineffective of your time, it's not good usage of your time, right? Because we have it pretty streamlined for you, right? You just show up, and it's still a big commitment for you.
It is a big
commitment.
Half
an hour here, you got to prep your mind.
Yeah, I mean, you figure on a month. Let's say that every episode's 3 hours. Okay, so you record 4 episodes a month, so that's 12 hours. And then you've got posting on socials if you're doing it well. So let's say you're posting, what did I just say? We're 12 hours, right? So 12 hours. And then let's say I'm posting on socials, engaging. So let's say that's 4 hours a week.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's 16 more hours. And then you've got like your guest communications, planning, all that. Let's just say that's probably not more than an hour a month. Okay, so that's another hour. And then you've got the editing and stuff and the posting, and that's probably another 4 hours. So it's like you do that quick math, we're at 33 hours. That's almost a full work week.
It is.
In a month,
we tell people that it's a full-time job.
And that's with you guys doing so much of the work.
Yeah.
Right? If I didn't have you guys, then that 33 hours becomes 60 hours.
Yeah. And people mistake our effectiveness at what we do, because they might, if we ever show them behind the curtain, because we have this setup, because we've paid for the internet. That's
well, and even Mal just being back there producing it, like even if it was just you and me and she didn't exist, the amount of time that it would take to make this episode what it is, that would add 4 or 5 more hours.
So Mal's doing the work right now by switching the camera to me.
Yeah,
she's editing live production, so it's saving us probably 2 to 3 hours of post, maybe a little less if we're using certain AI tools, but either way, it's done. When you end the mic, it's done.
Yeah.
Right. Other than a little snip at the end, put your intros, outros, whatever you need, whatever the client needs, we do that, or like an advertisement or something. But so there is some post-production, but it cuts out probably 95% of it, just the method.
Well, and I was even on a podcast last week, a big podcast. They're like 700 episodes deep.
Oh, wow.
It's a big one. And he was just on like a computer in his office by himself. And so like first it was Zoom, and then it was like, oh, that's not working. So we went to Riverside and we did it. And then his computer shut down like 15 minutes in. And it was just like, I mean, I don't care because I get it, but it was like, damn, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like he needs help, because he's just like, oh, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out, and it's like, and he's 700 episodes in,
okay.
and it was like just shocking.
That stuff gives us nightmares. We've never had that happen once.
Yeah.
Because I think we laid a great foundation and we invested in redundancies right off the get-go. So we're always recording twice, pretty much. We were recording.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, it's recording. The audio is recorded and then separately, and then we're recording video and audio at the same time. So there's 2 redundancies there. And then I have a backup battery that will last 8 hours.
And
that's
just in
ready
case
to go on that computer. It's powering my internet and it's powering the computer.
Wow.
And so even if the power like goes out at my house, I can still have that machine running that Mal's on right there. So that's the redundancy I'm talking about. The networking, we're dealing with big files. Like your podcast is like 4 gigs, 5 gigabytes of just video footage. And we can transfer that from one computer to the other within a minute.
And even like
seconds.
You don't know that stuff if you don't know that stuff. And so even on me, when I'm working on the video, it's like I have a Mac, which I thought like, oh, I have a nice laptop.
Yeah.
It's not nice enough. It's like every episode I have to like wipe my whole computer clean after every single one.
Yeah, you can have a Ferrari, right? But how big is the gas tank? How much memory can it hold?
And I just couldn't believe that because I didn't know that stuff, So then like I did one, it was like my storage is full. What the hell? And so it's like there's just so many components to it that you just don't even realize until you're in it.
It's true.
Yeah, we had a client, they messaged us last night and they're like, can you guys upload these episodes? Like we're trying to upload them. It's saying it's going to take 2 hours.
Yeah.
And they're like, we don't have your guys' internet. Can we give you logins and can you do it? And we're like, yeah, man. Like you just don't know until you know.
Well, and I've, because I do that part, right? You guys give me the content and then I do that piece. And my YouTube usually takes about 2 hours, for it, and it sucks. And like sometimes YouTube will be like, nope. And it's like I've done it before and then had to get, an hour and 45 minutes in, and then it's like, oh, we're just not going to finish. And I got to do it all over again.
Yeah, we got rid of that real quick. So part of that, if anyone is addressing this problem right now, if you're doing your own podcast and stuff, maybe we could talk hardware for a second.
Sure.
That could change your life. So we invest in high-end, actually we use gaming PCs because they're so powerful. So there are some very high-end like video production Mac, like, desktop computers.
Yeah, mine's just like the regular, like,
it's like
out
a
of the box. Yeah, just,
Yeah, and those are great for a lot of video editing and stuff if you're doing small projects. But when you're dealing with large files, it depends on your connections to the internet and what the computer can do.
Yeah. So
how fast is your processing in that computer? But then also, how are the roads to the internet? Right. So think of it as roads. If your house is your computer and you're trying to get to the freeway, it's like, what are the roads like? Do you have a private freeway entrance from your driveway to the freeway? You're good. That's what we have.
Yeah.
So we got these they're called a NIC Giga card. It's it could be pronounced very wrong.
Yeah, they should probably change that name.
NIC, NIC Giga. And it's a 10 gigabit like accelerator kind of thing. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's a port that I can plug in internet into, and it's just its own little tiny microcomputer that just speeds up those connections.
Wow.
And so we have 10 gigabit connections going everywhere in our house to every machine. And then we have a little hub that those connect to. And so it gets us 10 gigabit line into a full gig upload speed onto our internet. So your internet service provider will affect the upload speed. And then the connection and the freeway ramps that you have to the internet from computer to your router, those really matter too.
And you guys obviously aren't using Wi-Fi to load that shit up. It's like I'm just on my laptop on the Wi-Fi.
Oh, okay. So if you're on Wi-Fi, so this particular client that Mal brought up, they were like, hey, these are going to take about 2 hours. Is there any way we can get a smaller video file? And I was like, no, you can compress a file down so it shoots, into the internet faster, but you're going to lose quality, everything.
Right.
Because then it has to be uncompressed. Plus, if I'm uploading to YouTube or to a Google Drive or something, there's already a small amount of compression on that. So like the quality that these cameras are picking up right now, by the time you post it on YouTube, it's just tiny.
A little bit.
Reduction, just because of compression. And so I was explaining this to them. I was like, no, like it would ruin your quality. And I'm like, but what we could do is we have the internet infrastructure to do this. I'm like, it's totally your internet speed.
So add that service package on and then we can do it for you.
Exactly. But even if you buy the best internet speed, it's like, how are you attaching your computer to the internet?
Yeah.
That matters. If it's Wi-Fi, then we're talking internet Wi-Fi speed. And then how close are you to your router? And then like what kind of router signal do you have? And then, so that stuff, if you don't know these things and you're trying to do just one podcast, it's manageable. But that guy's 700 episodes in.
Yeah.
And then everything you just recorded was lost probably.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what the end product's going to look like. I've done a couple. I did another one with a guy and he lost it. Like I've been on a couple where shit's gone bad,
Yeah.
Content's not good, internet's not good enough. Like you'll be on like a riverside and then all of a sudden they freeze.
Yeah.
Because they're probably just using Wi-Fi to record it, and so it's like so many obstacles you can run into.
Yeah. And then there are beneficial like third parties, or like Riverside is great, or Zoom even, because you can like back those up to their cloud.
Oh, okay.
So you can have that setting, like a lot of companies do it, part of their package, they'll get a Zoom package or whatever for the meetings. And then they everything is recorded, right? When you get in, it's like, this is recorded.
Right.
It will say that. That way it's backed up to the cloud. So if something does, infrastructure collapses, like you have the meeting notes or the podcast or whatever you were talking about, or the last video from grandpa before he croaked.
Yeah, the problem is even if that happens, even if you have the recording, but it stops mid episode, it's still fractured,
it's derailed from its original organic train of thought. So it's very crucial that we don't ever miss a beat like that. We've had some recordings go south or go bad, but we've always had a backup to save it. So the YouTube was just like an image of, it was Robert McFarlane. He was just like, and we just put like a bouncing audio wavelength so you could tell it was a video. And it was like, hey man, we're sorry the video got corrupted, because even with all these redundancies, it could still
things can happen. Yeah.
But we had the full organic conversation still. We just had to put an image of him like.
Well, and that's better, you know,
Yeah.
because at least you have that still.
Yeah, and that's too. We're actually building one of my side companies that's not done anything at all. It's just sitting there. It's not costing me money, but it's just sitting there. We have all these server equipment. I have a friend in Georgia who's got like probably, I don't know, 30 full racks of servers that we're not even using yet.
Wow.
And we're trying to find little niche things we can do with it and find some business for, but it's been difficult.
All that shit's so beyond me.
Yeah,
like
me too.
Like they built no, it's not. They built some like a huge server plant like in Arizona that's like massive, you know, and it's like,
dude, like we're talking millions of dollars per day is what their revenue is coming in on some of those places. It's just as expensive to create a server farm like that, but like the amount of revenue you can do from just server hosting and just making sure that the transactions and that the zeros and ones are flowing.
That shit is so confusing.
It is. But we're trying to make something with that, and then but right now he's setting up a 100 gigabyte or 100 terabyte, excuse me, cold storage for me. So we have
so someone said that the other day in a message about crypto, and they're like, "Oh, you need to put some in cold storage." Like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? This isn't
cold
like
storage means it's like not. It's like
just a computer
unplugged
in a freezer.
Like I put it on a hard drive or like a thumb drive, and I stick it in a drawer. That's cold storage. Like it's stored data, like on a CD even. Like every CD you put into your car in the early 2000s, that's cold storage essentially. It's just not plugged into a cloud. It's not constantly running.
It can't be taken.
Wiped. Yeah.
But then you could lose it.
Yeah.
That happened to a guy here.
Really?
Do you know that? He had like he was in the commercial with what's the not Daredevil, he's married to Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah.
So Ryan Reynolds did a commercial for I think Mint Mobile or maybe his gin company, I can't remember, but the guy from St. George, I think his name's Alex Rowland, he's a multi-millionaire, but he threw his hard drive away that had all of his Bitcoin on it. And it's like the commercial's like, he's the dumbest guy in America. Like he's a millionaire, but has no money or something like that, you know? And it's like hundreds of millions of dollars in Bitcoin that's
just sitting there
somewhere.
It's locked up. Yeah. It's gone, man. You know?
That's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, could you imagine?
I have a friend he's a white hat hacker, basically. So when he was a teenager.
What's white hat mean?
White mean he's a good guy.
Oh, and a black hat is a bad guy?
Red hat usually. So white hat, red cell,
what's
white
black
cell.
hat mean?
Black hat?
I feel like I've seen that on a movie.
It could be. In this case, for this analogy, maybe there's a different meaning for black hat. Maybe he's like
Mal, look it up.
Maybe he's like a ninja, you know.
Yeah. Secret ops.
This is the power of video games, dude. People are sleeping on this shit.
Black cat, a bad person, especially a villain or a criminal.
Wow.
In a movie, novel, or play.
Oh, so it's not a real thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, black hat. It's like if I was like writing a screenplay,
that's
black hat would be the villain.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So when it comes to like military planning, right? If you're planning an operation to do X, Y, Z, you are planning the white cell, and I'm the red cell. The red cell is the enemy. So we red selling, white hat, red hat.
Interesting.
So like white hat security guys will go break into facilities to expose.
Digitally, you mean?
Digitally or physically. Sometimes it's both because, in fact, a good friend of mine, he does this professionally. So he goes, this same guy, he's done it before. But I have another friend that does it professionally, and he'll go to a corporate place on site, and he'll be undercover as like a janitor, and he'll plug stuff into computers when people aren't looking, and he'll find backdoors into their network. And then he comes with that data back to them and charges them money. It's like he's hired.
To say like this is where you're weak or whatever.
It's like you get hired to rob a bank so they can make the bank more secure.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
So that's white hat. So white hat hackers will go and they'll say, hey, do you still have your hard drive? They're like, yeah, but I forgot the password. It's encrypted. I can't get my hundreds of millions in crypto off of it. And the guy, he can hack into it, but he only has like 2 or 3 tries before it locks up forever, and it's just useless.
That's crazy. I mean, the world is just so crazy. Like I just found out about like airdropping crypto, and like I don't even really understand it. But I had a friend who there's some crypto coin called like Woof or something like that, or Whiff. I don't know.
Get a good whiff.
And I feel like he made like 300 grand in the last like 2 weeks. Shit. And it's just like, at some point, I just got to get in the game because like they'll talk about it, and I'm just like so beyond my comprehension, you know.
Yeah.
And then it's crazy. I just can't believe it.
If you're feeling that now, right? And if you have kids, I don't have kids. Me and Mal don't have kids yet. But if you guys have kids, and you feel like you're behind on technology, if you're good parents, right, and you teach your kids correctly, the internet will not get your kids. I promise you, if you are good parents. But get your kids like probably 8, 9, 10, maybe 10 to 12 would be a good age to start, or younger if you have controlled environments. But get them off of console video games. Get them off right now.
Console video games? You mean like a PlayStation 4?
PlayStation, Xbox.
Why?
Those are great. Those are 100% pure time wasters. But if you want to play video games and teach them how to build their own computer, get them on PC games. The level of intellect it takes for PC gamers to game, it's far superior.
Yeah, I mean, I only would ever play like, FIFA or Madden or...
Same. I grew up playing Halo, on consoles, and it was just a waste of time. All of my peers that grew up playing on PCs versus me, like just being this like gargoyle console person, I switched over in like 2018. So here I am in my late 20s learning about computers from guys that have walked the digital highways their whole life. And they
walk so you can run.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly, dude. But these guys, the learning curve is crazy. It's like they're up here and I'm down here still. Even with what I've just been saying on the podcast, like the amount of millionaires and people that I know that are part of my gaming community.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's just that's where the world's going. I mean, like that the guy I'm talking about is just what he's done with his understanding of crypto, just deciding like, well, I'm going to learn it,
Exactly.
And he's like buying shit that it's like it's not even real. Like whatever this whiff coin is, it's not even a real thing. There's no like it's not backed by anything. It's just like fucking make believe money, but it's real. Yeah. I don't know, man.
You can make it tangible if you know what you're doing.
That's just bought a brand new Mercedes.
Yeah, that's pretty tangible. That's pretty real.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's crazy how it works, but I think it moves so fast that I would get your kids involved with computers. There's so many good ways for them to learn coding and to learn.
Yeah, I mean, the internet is a scary place as a parent, like even my daughter watching that YouTube yesterday, and she's on YouTube Kids or whatever, but it's like there's still shit that gets on there that shouldn't be. And like they don't have phones because I feel like that's too dangerous. They don't have social media or anything, but it's like, in fact, just driving over here, I was listening to a news article about Facebook like had set up all these subscription services, or Instagram rather, and like moms are creating subscription channels of like their young daughters, and it's not pornographic in the sense of it's not like X-rated, right? So it's like it's not illegal, but the creeps are subscribing,
but people know how to,
so like it's this whole it's this whole thing, and it's just like, God, that is a terrifying place, and you just never know who you're talking to on the other side.
It is.
And then like my son likes this one game, God, what's it called? Like you build stuff, not Fortnite, but something
Minecraft,
else,
probably
like Builders or something like that. I don't know, blockers, I think is what it's called. But then I saw a thing that like pedophiles will get on there and pretend to be kids, and chat with them. And then they're like, oh, let's meet at the park, and then
they do.
Boom.
There's weird.
It's just like, it's just terrifying.
Very terrifying. So I think the best thing to do, because the easiest route is just avoidance, right? Like, oh, I'll never do that. Don't let my kids do this. That's cool. But I think the best thing to do long term is teaching and knowledge and understanding that, right? Because if you understand that, like, there are some awesome games for kids to play, being computer literate is like super helpful.
Obviously that's a strength, right?
Super
like
strength.
I wish even like for that my friend who did crypto, I wish I understood it more, because then I could have bought a brand new Mercedes, but I never learned it.
But then you can understand, like, there are servers out there. You can set up private servers if you have a spare computer. If you want a private server in your home, you can dedicate a spare computer to do that.
And what would be the purpose of that?
To host your own game it's like a private game. So he can go play blockers or Minecraft
without having to be worried about
creeps coming in there. So you can let people that you know in there, and you can give them access to the server. They know the password.
Well, I know like Gary Vee always says like that shit about like not giving your kids phones is stupid because like you're just
inevitable.
You're and you're just putting them behind intellectually because our world's going to operate in a digital space.
Unfortunately, yes. So it's like it's a double-edged sword. I'm glad I don't have kids yet. And I fear those decisions that if me and Mal have kids that we'd have to make, like.
Well, and it's hard too because like, my daughter wants one because like she has friends who have them, but it's just like, it's just too dangerous to me, like you just.
And that's not a bad call either, right? That's as a parent, I'd be like, that's.
Well, I don't know what is right or wrong is really what I'm saying, because it's like. And then you want like, oh, well, you don't want them to, because at some point, like right now, they're not really communicating. They wouldn't really be communicating with each other in any like real way. But at like 13 or 14, then they will be. So it's like, then if you take away that opportunity for your child to engage in the form of communication that her friends do, then you're like ostracizing them and putting them, like they'll miss out on things because they're just not in the space where their friends are.
Good point.
And so it's like, fuck, that's a challenging one.
Yeah. And how old is your daughter again?
She's 10.
She's 10. Yeah. I mean, at this point, what I would recommend for like tech, not so much the phones. I can't really speak to that, but if you had like a son or daughter who's interested in tech, get them a computer, but you can also put a lot of controls on like internet access.
Sure.
And so it is an investment in getting some of the hardware and understanding that yourself. And usually the parents that are computer literate, like of our generation, millennials and boomers that have gotten into it, their kids are like way better suited for tech jobs and like tech opportunities.
Yeah, well, and with the emergence of AI, it's like you got to know that stuff and be in that. So it's funny because I was sitting here waiting. I was in between podcasts and I was like looking for something on Amazon, and I was like, "Oh man, Amazon's down. This is crazy. Like I can't even get on it." Then I learned that it was like a block you had for your own internet, like a protection, But I was like, "Oh, we have Amazon's down."
Yeah, we have a corporate like internet router and access and stuff, so we have some firewalls. Yeah,
it was pretty funny.
Mal was like getting pissed about it one time. She's like, I fucking hate this shit. And I'm like, hey, stop
keeping us safe.
Stop getting stop what is it? Stop insulting my security measures. Like, we have to type in a code at the gate,
Yeah.
This is our gated community.
Yeah, it's amazing. Router. I would have never even thought of anything like that,
I could probably go in and slacken some of that for our guests at least, but it does matter. I've but being exposed to like being just an internet gamer, like on PC, you really start learning this stuff, and it's like horrifying what can happen, but it's also like reassuring that like knowledge is the only thing you need.
Yeah, I mean, because obviously this isn't anti-technology or anti-digital capacity. It's like just, I guess, to what you're saying. Know the capacity in which you're entering the space.
Yes.
So because there's so much good out there, right? There's bad too, but that's true of everything.
Exactly, and that's kind of the theme of the whole conversation: is know what you're getting into when you start a podcast, right?
Yeah,
and know what slice of the pie, and determine. Okay, this is the entire pie. If I wanted to get a podcast successful, do I have my ducks in a row? Do I have a business or service that will directly benefit from this podcast? Like you do.
What's your goal?
Right. Yeah, what's your goal? What's your end vision? And maybe we can ask you that, because I've never seen in the St. George area. I say Cody Aiden is the best podcaster here because I think you have some of the most clear, defined intention that I've seen.
Sure,
and it's consistency, unwavering.
Yeah.
So it's very commendable.
There's two different goals, because for Virtual GM, obviously the goal is to become a thought leader in the space that I occupy professionally and create, a funnel of opportunity for growth for the company. And then for Winning the Moment, it is creating an understanding of individuals, creating the data for like book number 2 of what makes people tick and how do they define success and how do they look at wins and losses. Give some actual tangible, like this person, if you like Blake, here's what Blake does, and you could follow that path, right? And having people talk about their trials and tribulations and just that human connection, but certainly trying to create that evergreen content. So that way because my goal is to be a speaker, and so you want as much content as possible. So if like you're booking a keynote and you Google my name, like what's out there, and if there's 200 podcast episodes with thousands of views, you're already like, oh, this person has an audience. Like now they can also help us market our conference. Not only is he, because you could be a great speaker, but if you have no marketability, then you're less valuable.
Exactly.
Regardless of what your skill set is, So it's like this is creating that infrastructure to be able to get onto more stages. And eventually, like if I do it for 4 years, then if I do believe at some point there will be a financial return specifically from this thing. But this really now is more about exposure and opportunity. Yeah. And it's the best way to create content because I don't want to or have the time to like be making like reels. Yeah. Like on my own. Like it would take me longer to make, let's say in one like in this episode, we'll probably have 20 things we could turn into reels, right? 20 clips. Well, it would take me way more than the 3 hours I'm here to make 20 other clips. Yes, indeed. So it's like it just makes the ability to consistently show up in that digital space infinitely easier.
Exactly. And that's what we talk about on our podcast that we do at Blueform. It's called Your Content Factory. And I think I had you on. Yeah. You were my first guest on there. Ayo. And it was actually, I'm having deja vu of that right now. But we had, it's talking about the foundation of your content creation, right? Yeah. That is your podcast. It's something you do weekly. It's something organic and easy to do. And if you have the setup down, it's super quick and fast. I mean, even though it is a big time commitment to do a podcast.
It's less of a time commitment than doing it otherwise, right? Like if I had to go make 20 reels, that would take me a week. Yeah. Longer, probably. I'd probably never even do it, realistically.
Yeah, and it's hard to pin down a videographer and an editor and everything, right? And so when you have a place that can do it in one go, and you're like, I already have this block of 1 hour content. Yeah. We had awesome discussions. Why don't we just dice that up? So that's where kind of how our whole system was born. It's just because it's the podcast is the foundation for all of your content. Because now it's way easier for you to just do an organic video. Hey guys, I'm on vacation. What's going on? And you could post that with a little bit of editing.
Sprinkle those in occasionally, but most of it, like if you go to my Instagram, damn near everything is just a clip from the podcast.
But your Instagram's good though, because it is spaced out. Yeah. And there's a clip, and then there's more, and then there's a clip. And unlike mine's just like clip, 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 clip. And that works for like TikTok, but it doesn't work for the gram. So.
Yeah, right. So. Well, I think that's a great segue to if someone's listening to this and they want to get into podcasting and they're interested in working with you guys, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
To be honest, well, I'll give you the areas, but we're just at blueformmedia.com. That's our website, Blueform Media on Instagram. I think we're pretty much on damn near everything, right, Mal?
I'd imagine.
Yeah. But yeah, blueformmedia.com is the best one if you want to see our pricing. And then also, if you're not willing to spend money on services, don't call us, please. I don't know why
do it for free?
People, everybody, when you're starting a podcast, it's not as special as you think. It's very, very arduous, hard work. And sometimes I think people call us just to get validation that they have a good idea, and we don't give them that. Yeah. Until we see that you have your ducks in a row and that you're serious about it, then we're like, all right, let's work.
Yeah, because even if someone pays you for a month and they quit, that really isn't even worth it for you guys. Because even though you got compensated for 1 month, you invested all this time in them. Yes. And if they're not going to continue, then that could have been time invested in someone who is going to continue.
And that's when we do the most work is up front, finding the brand,
right.
These backgrounds, your lighting, everything. So yeah, we're only looking for people that are like really with a purpose. If you have your ducks in a row, we find that our vertical is more for like corporations. So I would say this, if you own your own business or you have, intention like Cody, the question I would ask a business owner like Cody, in fact, let me ask you this. Yeah. If you could hire like your own in-house media team, what do you think that would cost you in salaries and equipment and all that?
Oh gosh, if you're putting it all together, it'd be an infinite cost. If you're trying to in-house it, which is why companies like you exist, because no one would ever do that because it would be too expensive. But I would say, you're looking at probably a minimum, even if you're outsourcing, $50,000 a year.
Right. Yeah. And that's on the low end.
Yeah.
There is a point where a company gets so big, it makes sense. Like a Hermosi.
Right. They have their own of course.
Stuff.
Well, and then they're producing ass loads of content. No one has the
and they got 6 editors at like 80 grand a year. Right?
Yeah, that's a whole different ballgame.
Not a problem.
I think it's smart for you guys to go after like a business because a business has the opportunity to see that tangible return to keep going. Because if you're going to try and do a professional quality podcast like this, there's a real financial commitment that you're not going to get a return on. So if you're saying I'm doing this podcast because I hope to make money, well, then it better be tied to a business because you as an individual, it's a long road from ideation to income.
Exactly, dude. Yeah. And so we kind of pitch it to businesses in this fashion, but it's like if you could hire an in-house media person, let's say they come equipped with every equipment. There's no equipment cost. They have everything. You're still going to pay that person anywhere from 50 to 70.
It's still going to be 50. Yeah.
Yeah. 50 minimum.
Yep.
But we can plug into any corporate system or corporate team or business or individual that has intention like you. And we're around $36K a year.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. You're actually kind of similar to Vibrant where we're giving them a whole team of people at a fraction of what they could hire those people for themselves.
You're saving them to build out.
And you're not getting us 100% of the time. You don't need us 100% of the time.
What we're doing, what Vibrant does is it sells a system that they can plug in. That's what we are. We're a process
and support and you've got that brain trust and it's more eyeballs on your business, more people who care, but at a fraction of the cost of, just to your point, of what one employee would be. You get our whole team of 12 people for less than one manager you'd hire for your company.
I didn't realize our business models were so close together.
Yeah,
that's
very
actually
similar.
Awesome. Okay, I'll pick your brain on that.
Okay, so then last question, or I guess first and last question. How do you define success?
Dude, I have an advantage because I produce so many of these.
You've heard it 43 times.
You catch a lot of people off guard with this one. But I was thinking about this because I've thought about this ever since you started because it's a great question. How does someone define success? That's the whole point of your book. Yeah, it's defining the success. And same thing in in a military background from where I come from. It's you don't never know what the enemy's true objective is. Yeah, right. So you might win the battle. Yeah, but you turn around and all your food's gone. Yeah, right. Because they just were faking you out so they could, so they had their own little win condition. Yeah. Right? And so when it comes to life, if we're looking at the grand scheme of life, dude, the only thing true success is just experiences. I like that. That's it. Yeah. Because there's nothing, I'm not taking anything physical with me when I leave this life. Yeah. And if there is an afterlife, if you believe in that, if there's something more, you're only taking your knowledge and experience. So the more experiences you have, everything is winning. I like that too because experience is living in the present because you can't experience something unless you're doing it. Yeah. Right? Like my daughter is saying how my wife and son are gone. And last night was Thursday night. And she was like, well, I hope they come home on Saturday. And I was like, why are you worried about Saturday? Right now, you and I are together and we're having fun. Stop living in Saturday because it's not here. Yes. On Saturday, we'll wonder if they're coming or not. But today, we know they're not coming today. So why even worry about it, right? And I think so much of fulfillment is being where you are. And people are always trying to be places that they're not. Dude, that is 100% accurate. We just had that conversation last week. Yeah. Running a business is stressful. And so we had just, we're like, hey, I'm like, why are we worrying about March? Yeah. It's February. Right. We're going to continue working for March. March will sort itself out when it's March. Well, yeah, because every fear you have of the future, you've had that fear or similar fears in the past, and yet here you are. Yeah. Right. Exactly. And so it's no matter what happens, your house isn't just going to disappear and everything's going to be ruined. Yeah. You know what I mean? Regardless, even if every client called you tomorrow and canceled, you'd still figure it out. And so every experience, no matter how negative or positive it is, whatever you're experiencing in the moment, that's the victory already. That's the winning. That's why your book, Winning the Moment, has so much meaning on so many levels. But if you're in a shitty divorce right now and you're medicating with alcohol, you're losing. Yeah. Because you're not being in that loss. Yeah. You're not winning it. Because everything is a win, my boys. My fellows, my ladies, everything is a win. You're here
because even losses turn into wins. Like that person who went through a divorce, it's a loss at some point, but eventually with enough of a runway, it can become a win.
And the experience of the loss is worth more sometimes than the win.
For sure.
And so that's all you're taking with you when you go out. Who dies better, the millionaire or the homeless guy? We both die.
Depends on what they want.
Yeah, I mean, they could have lived better.
Yeah,
but like, who dies better? Like everybody dies.
All relative.
It's just we all die.
Well, even this week I fucked up on something at work, and I was like, God damn it! And I was like, well, this sucks, but now I've learned a lesson. I couldn't have learned until I did this.
Exactly.
And so now I'm better off because of it. Yeah. And that was Monday, and I was like, God, this is the worst thing ever. Today's Friday. It's fine.
Yeah.
That's funny. So,
yeah, but that was a win, right?
Yeah, it is now. It was a loss at the time.
So don't let positive or negative doesn't determine win or loss. Like, we obviously don't want to lose money. We want to make money. We want to have progress.
But even then, sometimes when you lose money, it teaches you what you didn't know.
Exactly.
So that way you'll be better suited in the future. Right?
If you try, the victory is that I'm trying a business right now, me and Mel.
Yeah.
Right. And if it fails, it's still a victory.
Yeah.
Because I'll take that experience into the next one. You never really lose.
Nothing's forever anyways.
Yeah. And I've just seen in my military career and had some options to do some contracting I've told you about a little bit. And I just, life is so fragile. And no matter how many zeros in your bank account, man, death is still very much an individual thing you will do on your own, completely alone.
Yeah.
No matter if you're surrounded by family, doesn't even matter if family's on the other side waiting for you. That death is completely and utterly an alone experience that you will have to go through. Every one of us will. And so it doesn't matter what you had or what you will have. It's like, what are you taking with you when you die?
Well, all the more reason to be present, right? Because people think that they want things and they're unhappy because they don't have them. But then if something happens, then it's like you spent all that time being unhappy about this thing you didn't have and never even got to the horizon anyways. Yeah. Well, Blake, thank you so much. I think for people listening, if you're interested in a podcast, certainly just an unbelievable amount of value. And I just appreciate you and Mallory so much opening your house up to me and giving me this opportunity. And you guys are great to work with. And so if you do have a purpose or you have a business and you want to do it, reach out to these guys. They'll take care of you. It's more than worth it.
Thanks, bro. Appreciate it.